The mighty Kazan warrior Gruss froze in terror, his heart's pounding as the human soldier Vincent Bennett calmly approached the snarling Groknar, Kazoria's most lethal predator. Ignoring the monster's razor fangs and scythe-like claws, Vincent reached out his hand to pet the beast, shocking Gruss to his core. No Kazan dared touch a Groknar and lived. Vincent and Gruss were in the thick jungles outside the Kazan capital city. The human was part of a security team protecting diplomats seeking to strengthen the fragile alliance between the Kazan Empire and United Earth Federation. But the Kazan viewed humans as inferior, regarding their compassion as weakness. Vincent aimed to change that. His people needed this alliance to hold. Conflict would be catastrophic for both sides. The Groknar's growl reverberated through the rainforest as Vincent's hand neared its snout. Gruss braced for the human's arm to be torn off in a spray of blood. Instead, the beast's emerald eyes softened. It pushed its muzzle into Vincent's palm, rumbling contentedly. Vincent scratched its chin, and the apex predator purred like a kitten. Gruss could barely process what he was witnessing. Groknar were sacred to the Kazan, revered as divine. To touch one was unthinkable sacrilege. For a human to tame one was earth-shattering. It challenged the core of Kazan identity and belief. As they hurried back to the city, Gruss knew word of this would spread like a virus. The Kazan would be outraged. Some would want Vincent executed for defiling their sacred animal. Others would fear it meant humans were far more powerful than believed. It could shatter the uneasy peace and hurtle them toward war. Vincent had no clue of the firestorm he had just ignited with a simple act of kindness. An act that threatened to reshape the destiny of two civilizations in ways no one could foresee. The bond he forged with that Groknar was either going to be a bridge between human and Kazan, or the spark that burned both their worlds to ash. News of Vincent's transgression spread through the Kazan capital like wildfire. Outrage and fear swirled in equal measure. The streets buzzed with heated debates, some calling for the human's head, others whispering that perhaps the off-worlder possessed powers beyond reckoning. Tensions simmered to a boiling point as Vincent stood before the Kazan High Council, Major Davis and Ambassador Zhang flanking him. The cavernous chamber echoed with the growls and hisses of the assembled leaders. Vincent took a deep breath. He met the accusing stares head-on. "Esteemed counselors," he began, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "I come before you to express my deepest regret for my actions in the jungle. It was never my intent to offend your sacred beliefs or disrespect the mighty Groknar." Vincent paused, gathering his thoughts. "I acted on pure instinct, a reflex honed by years of bonding with animals on my homeworld. But I see now the gravity of my mistake. I meant no sacrilege. I humbly beg your forgiveness and understanding." Silence stretched taut as a bowstring. Then war leader Thrag surged to his feet, his eyes blazing with fury. "Pretty words, human," he spat. "But they mean nothing. You defiled our most revered creature. There is only one way to cleanse this insult, with your blood." Thrag turned to the council, his voice booming. "I demand this human's immediate execution. It is the only way to restore our honor and show the galaxy the price of disrespecting the Kazan." Ambassador Zhang leapt up, her face flushed with anger. "Absolutely not. Vincent's actions, while ill-advised, were innocent. He meant no malice. To execute him for a cultural misunderstanding would be a gross overreaction. It would destroy any hope of peace between our peoples." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Hardliners rallied behind Thrag, pounding their fists and roaring for Vincent's head. Moderates shouted back, arguing for restraint. Vincent stood motionless amidst the storm, his mind racing. If this cacophony was anything to go by, the human-Kazan alliance was already in pieces. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about the future of both their civilizations. And right now, that future looked to be teetering on the edge of a very bloody abyss. Just as it seemed violence would erupt, a voice cut through the din like a beacon. "Wait!" Every eye turned to Gruss. The Kazan warrior stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the council. There is another way, an ancient tradition, a path to redemption and understanding between warriors. Gruce turned to Vincent, something unreadable in his eyes. I propose a compromise. Let Vincent's fate be decided by trial of combat. Let him face Kazoria's greatest champions in the arena. If he proves his worth, his transgression will be forgiven. If he falls, his death will satisfy honor. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Gruce pressed on. Vincent tamed a Groknar. No Kazan has done that in generations. He has shown the potential to be a true warrior. Let him demonstrate his mettle. Let him forge a bond of battle with our people. It may be the only way to bridge the rift his actions have caused. Vincent's eyes widened. A trial by combat against Kazoria's fiercest warriors? It was absolute madness. Suicide. But as he looked around at the seething Kazan, he realized Gruss was right. Words wouldn't sway the hardliners thirsting for his blood, but strength, courage, fighting spirit, those they would understand. The moderate counselors huddled, whispering tersely. Finally, they turned back, their faces grim. We accept Gruss's proposal. A trial by combat will decide the human's fate. Thrag looked like he'd swallowed a rotting Skashix fruit, but he ground out, Agreed. But I choose his opponents. Our most brutal champions will test his mettle. He smiled coldly at Vincent. Prepare yourself, human. You're about to learn the true might of the Kazan. Vincent met Thrag's glare steadily. He thought of the delicate peace he'd shattered with a single stroke of a Groknar. The alliance between their people, now little more than shreds. He'd caused this disaster. Now he had to fix it, even if it meant facing a gauntlet of the most vicious warriors this planet had to offer. I accept the challenge, he said, his voice ringing through the chamber. I will face your champions, and I will prove humanity's worth, not just as allies, but as friends. The die was cast. His fate, and the fate of the Human Kazan Alliance, would be decided in blood and steel. Vincent could only pray he'd be strong enough to endure the storm to come. Vincent's muscles burned as he lunged forward, his blade clashing against Gruss's. The Kazan warrior pushed back, forcing Vincent to stumble. Again! Gruss barked. Your footwork is sloppy. A Kazan child could knock you down. Vincent gritted his teeth and reset his stance. For days, he'd trained relentlessly under Gruss and Major Davis. His body ached, covered in bruises and cuts. Remember, Davis called from the sidelines, Kazan fighting styles rely on overwhelming force. Use their momentum against them. Gruss nodded. We value strength above all, but strength without control is useless. He lunged at Vincent again, faster this time. Vincent sidestepped, letting Gruss's momentum carry him past. A quick elbow to the back sent the Kazan sprawling. Better, Gruss grunted, climbing to his feet. But Thrag's champions won't be so easily bested. As if summoned by his words, war leader Thrag strode into the training yard. A cruel smile played on his lips. Enjoying your last days, human? Thrag sneered. I've chosen your opponents, true Kazan warriors who will show you your place. He gestured to a hulking figure behind him. This is Jax, 7 feet of pure Kazan might. He'll crush your bones to dust. Jax growled, baring sharpened teeth. Thrag continued. Next, you'll face Raka. His blades have tasted the blood of 100 foes. A wiry Kazan twirled twin daggers with impossible speed. And finally, Thrag's eyes glittered with malice, Shrika the Undefeated. She'll ensure your death is particularly painful. A lithe female Kazan warrior stepped forward, her eyes cold as ice. Vincent swallowed hard but kept his voice steady. I look forward to the challenge. Thrag laughed. Brave words. We'll see how long that lasts in the arena. As Thrag and his champions left, Gruss placed a hand on Vincent's shoulder. You've learned much, but this will test you beyond anything you've faced. Are you ready? Vincent nodded grimly. I have to be, for both our peoples. The day of reckoning arrived. Vincent stood at the entrance to the arena, the roar of the crowd washing over him. The acrid stench of sulfur filled his nostrils. "Remember your training," Davis said, clasping Vincent's arm. "Stay focused. Stay alive." Vincent stepped into the arena. Heat blasted his face as he took in the hellish landscape. Jagged volcanic rock stretched in every direction, punctuated by bubbling lava pits and hissing geysers. High above, the Kazon High Council watched impassively. Thrag and his supporters jeered and called for blood. A horn blared. Vincent gripped his simple blade and shield as Jax lumbered into view. The behemoth charged with a thunderous bellow. Vincent ducked under the first swing, feeling the wind of it ruffle his hair. He slashed at Jax's side, but the giant barely seemed to notice. For what felt like hours, they clashed. Vincent's arms grew leaden, his lungs burning from the sulphurous air. Jax's blows came relentlessly, each one threatening to shatter bone. Vincent's mind raced. He couldn't overpower Jax. He needed to outsmart him. Backpedaling, Vincent led Jax toward a violently bubbling geyser. The Kazan, focused only on his prey, didn't notice the danger. As Jax raised his weapon for a killing blow, Vincent rolled aside. The geyser erupted, engulfing Jax in a cloud of scalding steam. The giant howled in agony, stumbling away in defeat. Vincent had no time to catch his breath. Raka stepped into the arena, blades glinting in the volcanic light. The hunter was blindingly fast, his daggers a lethal blur. Vincent felt stings across his arms and chest as Raka's blades found their mark again and again. Desperation fueled Vincent's counterattack. He feinted left, then struck hard at Raka's leg. The Kazon stumbled, his rhythm broken. Vincent pressed his advantage, locking blades with Raka. With a twist, he wrenched the dagger from Raka's grip. A swift strike to the head, and Raka crumpled unconscious. Panting heavily, Vincent turned to face his final opponent. Shrika prowled into the arena with predatory grace. She attacked without warning, a whirlwind of strikes that drove Vincent back. Pain exploded in his side as her blade slipped past his guard, drawing first blood. Vincent's vision swam. His limbs felt like lead. Shrika pressed her assault, sensing victory. But as they danced their deadly duel, Vincent noticed something. A pattern in Shrika's footwork. A flaw he could exploit. Gathering his last reserves of strength, Vincent feigned a stumble. Shrika lunged for the kill. At the last second, Vincent rolled forward. Shrika's momentum carried her to the edge of a lava pit. Vincent swept her legs out from under her. With a shriek of rage and fear, Shrika toppled into the molten rock. Silence fell over the arena. Vincent stood alone, bloodied but unbowed. Then, from the crowd, a cheer went up. The moderate Kazon roared their approval of Vincent's victory. Ambassador Zhang beamed with pride. Gruss nodded in grudging respect. And Thrag, his face twisted with impotent fury, stormed from his seat. Vincent had done it. He'd survived the trial by combat, and in doing so, he'd opened the door to a new understanding between humans and Kazon. Vincent stood before the Kazan High Council, his body still battered and bruised from the trial by combat. The chamber buzzed with tension as Ambassador Zhang stepped forward. "Esteemed Council," she began, her voice steady, "to solidify the peace between our peoples, I propose Vincent undergo the rite of Kanar." Murmurs rippled through the assembled Kazon. Thrag's eyes narrowed. "The rite is sacred. No outsider has ever—" Gruss cut him off. "Which is precisely why it could be the key to a lasting alliance. Vincent has proven his worth in combat. Let him prove it in our traditions as well." The council deliberated in hushed tones. Finally, the eldest member nodded. "Very well. The human will face the rite." Days later, Vincent found himself deep in Kazoria's unforgiving wilderness. A hunting party of grizzled Kazon warriors surrounded him, their eyes wary. "Your prey is the Sarthek," one growled, pointing to massive three-toed tracks in the mud. "Kill it or die trying." Vincent's heart raced as they followed the trail. Suddenly, a familiar chirp caught his attention. The Groknar he'd bonded with bounded out of the underbrush. "No!" A Kazan warrior raised his weapon, but Vincent held up a hand. "Wait, it can help us." For hours, they tracked the Sorthek. The Groknar's keen senses proved invaluable, leading them through treacherous ravines and sulfurous swamps. Finally, they cornered the beast, a monstrous razor-toothed nightmare that made Vincent's blood run cold. It charged, jaws snapping. Vincent rolled aside, feeling the wind of its passing. The Groknar darted between its legs, confusing it. Seizing his chance, Vincent plunged his blade deep into the Sarthek's throat. With a gurgling roar, the creature collapsed. The Kazan stared in stunned silence. But Vincent had no time to savor his victory. The second trial awaited. The ritual of brawn pushed Vincent beyond anything he'd ever endured. He ran for kilometers across blistering volcanic plains, shoulders screaming under the weight of a massive Penetron rig. Sweat stung his eyes as he faced off against a gauntlet of Kazan champions. Fists and feet flew in a blur. Vincent's ribs cracked under a vicious blow, but he fought on, downing opponent after opponent. Finally, he stood before a sheer cliff face. Heat shimmered off the rock, scalding his hands as he began to climb. Inch by agonizing inch, Vincent ascended. His muscles burned, his fingers bled. Thrag's mocking voice drifted up from below. "Give up, human. You'll never make it." Rage and purpose surged through Vincent. With a final Herculean effort, he hauled himself over the edge. As he lay gasping, a vision flashed before his eyes. His childhood home in flames, alien ships darkening the sky. The source of his drive, his reason for pushing forward. The final trial brought Vincent before the High Council once more. Here, in the ritual of truth, he laid bare his soul. "I was just a boy when they came," he began, voice raw with emotion. "The raiders destroyed everything. My family, my home, gone in an instant." Vincent recounted years of hardship, of clawing his way out of crushing poverty. "I joined the military to ensure no one else would suffer as I had," he finished. "That's why I'm here, to forge a peace that will protect both our peoples." Silence reigned. Then the eldest council member stood. "Vincent of Earth," he intoned, "you have proven yourself a true son of Kazor. We name you kin." Cheers erupted. Even Thrag gave a grudging nod of respect. As the council dispersed, Gruss approached, the Groknar at his side. "The council has decreed your Groknar companion a living symbol of our new alliance," he said. "You've changed things, Vincent. For the better, I think." Vincent smiled, exhausted but triumphant. The road ahead would be challenging, but a foundation had been laid. Human and Kazon, united at last. The acrid smell of sulfur hung heavy in the air as Vincent and his Groknar companion patrolled the outskirts of the Kazon capital. Years had passed since Vincent's trials, yet tension still simmered beneath the surface of the fragile alliance. A distant rumble caught Vincent's attention. He signaled to his Groknar, its scaled hide gleaming in the harsh light of Kazoria's twin suns. They crept forward, weapons at the ready. Suddenly, the air erupted with plasma fire. Vincent dove behind a boulder, his heart pounding. Through the chaos, he glimpsed familiar faces, Thrag's hardliners, their eyes burning with hatred. "Take cover!" Vincent shouted to his Groknar, but the loyal beast ignored his command, leaping in front of Vincent as a searing bolt of energy cut through the air. Time seemed to slow as Vincent watched his companion fall. He scrambled to the Groknar's side, cradling its massive head in his arms. Blood seeped from the mortal wound, staining the ground beneath them. The Groknar's eyes, usually so fierce, now held a profound wisdom. It spoke directly into Vincent's mind, its voice resonating with the weight of ages. "You walk two paths, that of soldier and peacemaker. One leads to further conflict, the other understanding. The choice is yours." A surge of energy pulsed from the Groknar into Vincent. His mind reeled as ancestral memories flooded his consciousness. Countless generations of Groknars, their triumphs and struggles, their deep connection to the Kazon people. Vincent gasped as the full weight of the Groknar's collective consciousness settled into his mind. In that moment, he understood the Kazan on a level no human ever had before. The firefight raged on around him, but Vincent barely noticed. He was lost in a maelstrom of primal instincts and ancient knowledge. His body began to change, muscles rippling with newfound strength. When Vincent's eyes snapped open, they blazed with feral intensity. He stood, his stance radiating an eerie calm amidst the chaos. Thrag emerged from the smoke, his face contorted with rage. "Die, human!" he snarled, lunging at Vincent with deadly precision. But Vincent moved with inhuman speed. He caught Thrag's fist mid-strike, effortlessly twisting the Kazan warrior to the ground. Thrag's eyes widened in disbelief and fear as he realized his most powerful blows had no effect on Vincent. "Enough," Vincent said, his voice carrying a weight that seemed to shake the very air around them. The fighting stopped as if a switch had been flipped. All eyes turned to Vincent, who stood tall amidst the fallen bodies of Thrag's soldiers. Vincent's mind reached out, tapping into the primal essence of the Kazan psyche. When he spoke, his words resonated with the deepest drives of their warrior culture. "We are strength," he intoned, his voice echoing with the collective power of the Groknar. "We are conquest. We are dominance." The hardliners lowered their weapons, transfixed by Vincent's words and the raw power he exuded. "But we are also honor," Vincent continued. "We are loyalty. We are the guardians of ancient ways and forgers of new paths." One by one, Thrag's followers dropped to their knees. Even Thrag himself felt the iron grip of hatred loosen its hold on his heart. Vincent's transformation spread through Kazor like wildfire. Kazon from all factions gathered to witness the human who had become something more, a living embodiment of their most sacred ideals. In the days that followed, Vincent found himself at the center of a monumental shift in Kazan society. The mistrust that had plagued human-Kazan relations began to fade as the Kazan recognized in Vincent a kindred spirit, one who understood their deepest truths. Yet challenges remained. Vincent grappled with the enormity of his new role, balancing his human ideals with the primal instincts now coursing through his veins. He stood as a bridge between two worlds, his very existence a testament to the potential for unity. As news of Vincent's metamorphosis spread beyond Kazoria, the foundations of a true alliance began to take shape. Humans and Kazan alike looked to this new icon with a mixture of awe and hope, sensing the dawn of a new era in galactic relations.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.